Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fuel for Success. This is episode 231, and today is our business development entrepreneurship show, just like every single Thursday. And of course, you can tell because I got my execution hat on backwards. I've got my legal pad, and I've got my good friend and business partner, Matt Maddox, with me in our virtual studio. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, man. How you doing today?
I'm awesome. I'm blessed. I couldn't be better.
Well, I'm excited because this is our one of our favorite days. Tell everybody what happens on Thursdays, man.
We talk about business and entrepreneurship, and sometimes we'll go off on tangents and rants, but mostly not. And we talk about how to build your business, how to become an entrepreneur, how to make a business better, even how to be a better employer or employee. And, that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Give a shout out to all of our live audience. Don't forget that those that are watching live, you're always welcome to type in questions that you have, whether it be about entrepreneurship, business, sales, staff relationships, hiring, firing, marketing, you name it. Anything that has to do with business and entrepreneurship, Mike and I will do our best to answer the question. And Al said the question he has is how to announce your business like today, you know. So anyways, yeah, Mike, we're really delayed on announcing our business here that you and I are working on. Did y'all lose me or Mike? Oh, he said he lost audio. Well, anyways, I know Mike will be back in just a second. And so today, every Thursday, we talk about business and entrepreneurship. It is our mission and goal to inspire future entrepreneurs, to motivate people that are in business to grow. Everybody should have a passion to grow. You should never be satisfied. It's what I told my son's baseball team. If you're up by 5, you want to be up by 10. Like, you're not satisfied that you're up by 5. If you got $100,000 in the bank, you want $200,000 in the bank. It's not that you're never content. It's just that you're not satisfied. You should always be at a place of gratitude no matter what. However, there's nothing wrong with having a passion to want more. And anybody that's going to have success in business never is satisfied. If they meet their sales quota, it's actually a failure, because you never want to just meet your sales quota, because then you're living the just get by mentality. People that have the just get by mentality will never succeed in business or never succeed in life, because there's just no way to succeed in the world of competition, social media. There's no way to succeed unless you have a driving, deep resolve. Mike just texted me that he's getting back on. His audio stopped and he's rebooting here. That happens sometimes. So let me just get through to our questions and start before Mike gets here. And we had about 4 or 5 questions come in over this week about today's show. But I want to grab Carol's real quick. She says, how important is it to have your family believe in what you're doing in business, and how is it important that they know what it's about? I don't know if you're talking about spouse. If you're talking about spouse, it's life or death. As far as, I told somebody yesterday that the wrong person will actually drain your energy and sabotage your success. The right person will make you only better. Welcome back, Mike Hopkins.
It's great to be back. It's great to be here. It's wonderful. Somehow I got lost on the interwebs. So what are we talking about?
We forgive you, man. I was just, before we got into our questions that came in, I was answering Carol's question about how important it is to have your family believe in what you're doing. And I said it depends. If it's a spouse, it's life or death. If it's like your parents, or unless you need funding from them, which you should never in a startup have your success based on just one source of funding. Because what if those people say no? Maybe next week we'll dive into investment, how to get money for startups or whatever. But Carol, it's not that important if it's not your spouse. I mean, obviously you want everyone to believe in you. It's your spouse, then yes, absolutely must need them to buy in. And then how much should your spouse or family know what is about business? It depends. Um, there's a lot of things that I might not would share, not because I'm not being secretive or not even bringing them along. It's just a not necessary. B, they wouldn't understand it, and that's not a negative thing. It's not a put down. Or C, could be that it might have something to do with like you know, maybe there's, it just, you know what? It would depend on how much you would share. It would depend on your spouse's request. If your spouse wants to know everything, every detail that's going on in the business, then obviously, that you got to cross that bridge when you get there. So I think it just all comes back down to communication at the end of the day.
Two things. First of all, you're welcome, Serge. Serge just read $100 Startup. It's a great book. I agree. Tommy's got a follow-up question. What if your spouse doesn't buy in? Then what do you do?
Well, you go back to work. No, this is why I teach my son, and I teach all people that are in junior high and high school. At a young age, you have got to master the art of sales and persuasion.
Yeah.
Mike, no, people grossly underestimate how much we're all salesmen and how much we all need to know how to sell. Mike, there's a lot of things that don't happen in life for one reason, and that's because we didn't sell people on an idea or whatever. So having said that, Tommy, I mean, if your spouse doesn't buy in because the risk is too high or because she's just whatever, obviously you've got to ease her fears and, or his, whatever the case may be, and then try to sell them on it. Like, try to persuade them. Be enthusiastic. Like, a lot of times the people that don't believe in it, sometimes they might even be subconsciously testing your depth of persistence and desire to really do a thing. So then, at the end of the day, you can just ask them, what I've had to do sometimes, Tommy, to leaders and people that I needed to buy into something I was doing that they clearly didn't. I would ask them, look, I know you're not a gambler. And I know you don't agree, but I'm asking you to roll the dice on this one. I'm literally coming out and asking you, even though you don't believe in it, I'm asking you to do it anyways. I'm asking you just to take the gamble because this is how much I know that what I'm about to do is going to pay off. Sometimes you just got to come out and ask for the gamble, Tommy. Mike?
You said a lot when you said the art of sales and persuasion. It actually made me think of something that happened this past weekend when, remember when you got the housekeeper to open our room, even though we weren't actually in that room yet. And there's an art to, which was pretty funny. And there's an art to sales and persuasion, and it's not necessarily manipulating people, but just, removing fear. And in sales, it's not like the old saying, don't put more sell in, take more fear out. And so to remove that fear, that's an art of persuasion. That's an art of sales. And so try to understand what your spouse's fear is, because like Pacey said, there's probably fear that's motivating them not to buy in. Find out what that fear is and figure out how you can allay that fear. And that'll help you. And learn about sales and persuasion. Probably, if you're going to go into business and you can't persuade your spouse, then maybe you better rethink it, because sales is going to be the life or death of your business.
And people are going to have to know, Mike, people need to know how to persuade. People need to know how to sell. You're going to, obviously, especially ladies, and this, please, all ladies out there, take a deep breath right now. I need you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Ladies by nature, it's their nature, Mike. They're not as, they need that security. Men don't really need security, but ladies do. So a lot of times when a lady doesn't appear supportive, it's her own nature of just needing to know, are we going to be secure? You know what I'm saying? So what did Carol say?
She said you need a spouse who will believe in you even when you're not sure you do anymore. That's pretty good. That's the ideal scenario. And that's good. Carol does that. Carol sometimes bolsters me when I need it and so forth. So, hey, we've
like lighting fire under you, is that what you're saying?
Sometimes. Get to work, slacker.
Hannah made a point I just want to 20 seconds on. She said she judges by the track record and are they financially responsible. And so, I was telling somebody in life coaching yesterday, they were asking Mike, and I think actually this comes down to a question that you and I are going to get into later in the show. He said, should I weigh myself every day? And I went into this like teaching that I believe if you're mentally tough enough, yes, because you get to know your body. Like, why did you gain 2 pounds? And what did you do yesterday? Because you lost 2 pounds. So you really like evaluating, to me, is the greatest thing we can do.
Right.
So having said that, in business and sales and whatever, the ability to nonstop ask questions is key. But having said that, because of something Hannah said, looking at a track record, I believe, is important. However, I'm a little crazy in that I would hire somebody that had a lot of failures. If I saw in them drive to keep going and keep trying, and I saw to me it all comes down to attitude, because I believe, Mike, that the greater your failures, the greater your success will be. So like I would take a shot on somebody that failed in business 9 times. I would be like, you know what? The fact that that sucker is still swinging the bat after 9 failures tells me that when it hits for them, they're in this for the long haul. These people have the ability to make it happen, because sooner or later, pain, my friends, you go through enough pain. And I'm talking about not pain that defeats you and puts you into, a 6-year depression, but a pain that causes you to, to work all night, to say never again. Tony Robbins says sometimes you need to say the words never again.
Right.
Like sometimes you need to have that snapping point of, something, I know I failed. I know I blew it. Mike and I had business failures. So, and I'm agreeing with what you said, Hannah. I'm totally agreeing. But I'm also giving a different twist. And just because someone might have a bad track record, like for example, most companies don't hire people with a criminal history, correct? Which, good policy to have in general. But I also believe that there are exceptions to every rule. Like, I believe some of your best salesmen could be a former drug dealer. Like, I would hire a former drug dealer, because if those suckers could push drugs and you could teach them the sales principles and business principles, and they're truly drug-free, they could be multimillionaires. Because, Mike, drug dealing is a business. People don't realize. A lot of these people that are drug dealers, even though it's wrong, clearly, they're exceptional business people. They're hustlers. I talked to one drug dealer that made all kinds of cash. I'm talking like almost $10,000 a week. I talked to him in a church one day, and he was one of the #1 drug dealers in the entire state. He told me he answered his phone about 150 times a day. You imagine how many people in startup companies would get on the phone and hustle and take 150 calls or make 150 calls?
Wow.
So across the board, whatever it is, don't pass on people just because of their past. That's all I was going to say.
That's good. Hey, something Lance said here I wanted to just pull out. This is great. He said people over 60 years old are successful in 73% of business startups because they've learned from their past mistakes. That's a great stat, and that's powerful when you think about it.
I don't want to wait till I'm 60. I love the quote. I believe in it. It's true, because some people, Lance, they take forever to learn.
I'm not.
I just don't want to wait till I'm 60. I don't want to be the guy that drives the unbelievable, hot sports car, and you're 75. You know what I mean? I'm going to drive one. I want to drive it now when it matters. Because when you're 75 and you're driving one.
I don't think I'm not advocating that you wait, right, to start a business, but I am saying that there is something about experience, and bad decisions make great stories, and I've got a bunch of great stories, and those all add up to experience that can help start a business, run a business. So that's definitely an interesting point. Hey, let me ask you this. We've got some questions that came in. Again, if you've got questions, ask them in the chat box. Text them in 727-341-5599 or email me, mike@mattmaddox.com, and we'll get them on the show as soon as we can. But a couple other questions that have come in. Let me ask you this. As far as, and you talked about measurability and measuring success and that sort of thing, how important is it to track your customers and your results, and why is it important?
Mike, why don't you go first? Because I know that this is a part in our company that you kind of handle. And then I'll just kind of come in on the back end and give a few tips and thoughts myself.
Okay. And Serge, we'll get to your question in just a second. I think that, and this will actually lead into, if we have time, the next question. One of the most important reasons you should track your customers is because follow-up is so important. And you need to know and have a system and a plan in place to do follow-up with your customers. And if you don't track who your customers are and what stage of the sales cycle they're in, you have no idea who to follow up with and where. And if you don't have a systematic approach, here's the real deal about business is that the parts of it are very sort of boring and mathematical and scientific, if you want to put it that way, right? You have to have process. You have to have a repeatable process, because if you can't repeat, then you can't measure. And if you can't measure, then you can't improve, right? So it's like, have you ever seen someone like trying to troubleshoot trailer lights? You plug in the boat to the trailer and the trailer lights don't work. And if you don't have a systematic approach to troubleshooting to figure out what's wrong, if you're just sort of going in and trying this and trying this and trying 3 different things at once, you have no idea what's going to work. And sometimes, they work. Hey, don't touch anything. Let's go fishing, right? But if you don't have a systematic approach, you're changing this and you're fixing that and you're trying this, you're doing 20 things at once, and you have no idea what works, what doesn't, and you're not eliminating possibilities. You never get to a solution. It's the same way in business. You have to have a process. You have to change things, systematically so that you can see the effect, measure the effect, and then take that and build a cash engine that increases in volume, increases in success, increases in cash flow. Otherwise, you're just sort of spinning your wheels and out there in the middle of nowhere, like, what am I changing? What effect did that have? If you don't know the effect of a change, then you're doing it wrong. Let me put it that way. And you're right. I use trailer lights as an analogy because, Tommy, you're right. They are challenging. They're the simplest thing, but hey, welcome back.
Hey, you know what? I'm glad to be back. What you said was very good, Mike. Mike, we believe in tracking. We believe that I see a lot of businesses, Mike, that don't know these numbers. They don't know exactly how many customers bought what.
Right.
I mean, at any given point, here's what you have. You have a faulty system and process. If you can't, in 10 minutes, tell your team how many people bought what product, like something that simple in a business is huge. So you can know, like a lot of people keep buying stuff that's not selling and their inventory becomes just extremely disorganized. And so like when you track your customers and you get to know the spending cycle of your customers, and you know what? Who's your hot customers? Like who's your top 10? Like right now, every business should be able to name their top 10 customers. If you can't tell right now in 5 minutes, your team, if you can't walk in, sit down and say, guys, here's our top 10 customers. We're going to blow their mind for Thanksgiving. Not a card that says happy holidays, love Matt and Mike. Like, Mike, I'm so past that. I'm so past average. Like, to me, Mike, what's killing us is average. So what are we doing for our top 10 customers? Think about it. Like, do you even know who they are? And this is why tracking is so important. Because these are the things that you can know and be able to execute on. You ready for this? Track the customers that are fading. Yeah. Who hasn't bought in a while? Because then that segues into our next question about the importance of follow-up. Mike and I have done a lot of extensive training about follow-up. Now, we did it in the church world, but the same rules apply in business.
Yeah.
In fact, you and I were talking about this the other day, Mike, that a lot of businesses don't have success because they don't follow up. How many times have you maybe gone and, considered buying something, you didn't buy at that moment, and the person that was selling it never followed up on it? You know what I mean? But had they, they say it takes an average of 7 to 9 follow-ups before most sales are made. So think about it. And most salespeople don't even do 1 follow-up. How many times do we have stacks of business cards that we never call, text, email, or send anything to So why have the business card? Like I believe back, going back to Jay's success in Aflac was in his follow up.
Right.
It was the fact that the sales cycle is prospect, present, follow up. So if you can remember that, but the key is follow up. What good is your presenting? I know a lot of people are like, man, I gave an unbelievable sales process. Took them a month to get in the door, right? Took them a month. They finally got in the door. They finally got the meeting. They presented like Michelangelo painted the 16th chapter. I mean, it was just a master present, right? And then there's no follow up. So what good is all of that? So your focus has to be follow up.
I agree. So an interesting question related to that is how much follow up is too much? Is it possible to follow up too much? At what point do you become annoying?
Ooh, that's good. I'm almost to the extreme on this. I made sales where I promise you I called them 40 times plus, and my rule is this, and I'll tell them on voicemails. It's this simple. Just text me and tell me to quit calling, So to me, until they say no, I'm telling you no, right? And even no doesn't really stop me. It really doesn't. I don't know, Mike. I mean, obviously, when it becomes annoying is when you're tact and you're as long as if you're a natural and you're genuine, then there's a fine line between, obviously you don't want to call 3 times a day.
Right.
You don't want to go knock on their door, while they're having dinner. You know what I'm saying? For example, Mike and I were trying to close the deal a while back, and we actually thought about literally showing up on the guy's doorstep. And I'm not kidding. We were this far from it was hard to get a hold of him. Because of that, we probably made, 50 to 60 calls, texts, couldn't get through. And we literally were 3 hours from him one day, and we said, let's just drive and let's just wait on his doorstep. I mean, Damon John did that with, I think it was LL Cool J or one of the rappers to get his clothing line. He literally slept in his car outside the dude's house. There's them stories like that. I'm gutsy like that, but then there's it's all about, Mike, it depends on the kind of person you're selling to, because someone that gets business and gets entrepreneurship, that has gone through those types of journeys themselves, I don't care what anybody says, deep down inside, they will respect that gutsy person that goes to any length to make the sale. Because if you believe, and this is what real sales comes down to. Do you believe in it or not? If you believe in it, you believe you're actually committing crime by not selling it to people. I'm immoral. I am committing crime. Literally, it's enough for me to be arrested. Even though it's not a law, if it was a law, it really would be enough for me to be arrested by not making the sale, because I'm doing an injustice. I'm committing immorality, or I'm not practicing ethics
right.
or integrity. I know that's deep. So I don't know, Mike. I think it's just Al's saying we should write a book called Mike Stalking 101. But you ready for this? Entrepreneurs are annoying. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Hungry people are annoying. So when you're hungry enough, you're going to be a little annoying. And I think that's the risk you got to take. If you want to be the pretty boy and you want to just do everything so smooth, entrepreneurship is not for you. Because you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to push it. You're going to have to take the risk of appearing annoying. You're going to have to take the risk of appearing, oh my God, he's obnoxious. But let me tell you right now, I guarantee you, there's thousands upon thousands of sales that have happened by those annoying, obnoxious people that just never gave up.
That's good. So we're actually over time on our 20 minutes already, but let me ask you a question. I want to ask our viewers this same question, but I'm going to ask you first. And this is a totally different topic. But on your mobile phone, other than social media, what are the top 3 apps that you use every day?
Yelp. I'm a Yelper. Even just over in general?
Yeah.
I use Yelp every day. I use Voxer. I use Voxer a lot. In fact, it's on my homepage right there. You see it? because Voxer is good way to communicate quick messages. It's kind of like a walkie-talkie type thing. So for me, it would be Yelp, Voxer, and you know what? I honestly, you said apps other than social media is the clock app. I use timers and stopwatch and alarms like crazy. You know what my timer ends to? The Jeffersons. Moving on up, man. What about you, Mike?
Did I lose you?
Was that Mike disappear? Can y'all hear me or did Mike disappear? Oh, here he is. I see his head moving. Can you guys hear Mike or is that me that just went quiet? You there, Mike? He's blocked you. Okay. Anyways, I cannot hear him at all, so I'm assuming he's coming back in just a second. We apologize. Sometimes that happens. If you can hear Mike and he's talking about his apps, then but I mean, obviously there's millions of apps. I use all kinds of apps myself, but those are the top ones that I think I probably use every day. So of course, Score Mobile, MLB at Bat. You know what I've been using lately is Time Hop. It's been interesting to see what I posted 3 years ago. Okay, Serge, another entrepreneur book. I'm gonna have to grab my iPad, Serge, on that one, just because I would have to look at some of the ones I've read lately that were really good. There's not one sticking out right now. There is one, but I can't remember the title. So, Serge, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll have that answer for you tomorrow if you'll be on the show. I'll start off just giving a few tips on that. Anyways, guys, I don't know what happened. Thank you so much. I know sometimes Spreecast cuts out a little bit, but we're working on the technology side of it. But hey, we appreciate you, and thank you for all you that watch live and those that are watching on the archives. You're always welcome to go to iTunes, type in Fuel for Success. Always go to YouTube or go to fuelforsuccess.tv. And thank you guys so much for the comments, the suggestions. I love all the things that you guys share over here in the chat box. That's one of the benefits of watching live is literally there's like a real online interactive community going on right here. It's like we're all having, coffee together and just chatting it up about business. So it's been awesome. All right, we love you. I miss you, Mike, if you can hear me, man. We'll see y'all tomorrow morning at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time for Fuel for Success about family and relationships. God bless you, my friends.